I'm Eric Wolf, and my experience in business peer groups has changed my life, especially my membership in Vistage, one of the world's largest CEO advisory groups. I'm an entrepreneur, a business owner, and a Vistage speaker on the power of marketing. This podcast is dedicated to the people who make those experiences possible, the peer group chairs. Every episode, I interview a Vistage chair who has dedicated their time to helping entrepreneurs like me succeed. My guest today is Bridget Wenman from Central Wisconsin, and we're going to talk about Vistage, obviously, and the rest of your stuff, but I have to ask, it says here that you've got 15 brothers and sisters.
Yes. Why did I know maybe that would be where we would start? Because that's kind of where it starts sometimes.
I guess that's kind of where you started.
Right?
So how does that work with what was the living situation like with that many kids around?
Yeah, we actually grew up in a little town called Manawa, and what's the crazy part is the town had 1,000 people. My cousins lived right down the road with the same last name. We all went to the same school, and they had 13 kids in their family. So in my very small class of 65 kids, I had a niece, a nephew, and a first cousin, and all I would consider my best friends. So it was great.
I mean, you guys must have been rigging like every school election, and and you go to class, you sit down, and it's like a family reunion. It's just it's definitely very different from the way that I grew up, but having that big of a family has got to be so two things. Obviously, I'm sure it was a very cool and special experience, but on the other side, it probably also came with a number of challenges and things like that, and maybe inconveniences or issues that informed a lot of who you became. So I would love. We'll move on, I promise, but I just have to ask about it.
No, it's okay. I actually love talking about my family. I have a great family. I'm the youngest. So I grew up with my nieces and nephews, and our family's pretty close. But it really did, they will always say, are the youngest, are you spoiled? Absolutely. Did my family have a completely different experience 25 years after they had all the first ones? I mean, the first ones I had older brothers. I had three older brothers in Vietnam. My mom
Wow.
had three sons in Vietnam. I have so much respect for my parents and what they did and who they were as individuals. My dad, yesterday would have celebrated his 106th birthday. So
Wow.
they're no longer with us. So that's part of the challenge, right? I lost my father when he was 70 and I was 22. So it's just
Wow.
a little bit different. My mom lived to the ripe old age of 93, but in my world, I lost her at a relatively young age because of just, being the youngest. Um,
What was
I
the
always
age
had a
spread between you and your, was it your brother that was the oldest?
Yes, yeah, 25 years between
Wow.
myself and my oldest brother. Um, so yeah, it was a really great experience. I will say I have a thick skin,
I'm sure.
because you learn to roll with the punches. One thing it that shows up in my everyday as I'm doing facilitating of training, I always say that I don't notice when the room is hot or cold. So like if you're hot or cold, you need to just fix it because I'm not going to notice. And I always laugh that it's because I don't think anybody really cared when you were younger, whether you were hot or cold. Like you just deal with a lot of stuff, right?
Well, and
So
if you're so, and how many of the 15 would have been in the house with you at any given time?
really about 12. So I think my five oldest and four oldest brothers were certainly gone. We moved into a newer house in what would be 72. So I think there were probably 10 there. My second oldest brother had such a funny saying. He always used to say, I have 15 brothers and sisters. I never slept alone until I got married. So but I was being the youngest girl, I didn't have quite my brothers had to share rooms more often
Right.
than I ever did. So I only had to share with one sister. So it was a great I also say that I was born to do Vistage because in Vistage you may or may not know you're looking at 12 to 16 really strong
Oh yeah.
bodies in a room. And so I learned to deal with that at a very young age. And so my Vistage members don't scare me.
A lot of
I anymore.
personalities in the room, but that's not much different from where you grew up. And of course, nobody cares if it's hot or cold because there's no way to make 10 people, 12 people happy in any case.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also think we had a lot of fun, and that's when you said, when we started today, said, let's have some fun. And that's always such a key. If we can't laugh and just really enjoy ourselves, I said my favorite survey comment that I ever got from one of my Vistage meetings was, I laughed, I cried, I lost $5. It was a great meeting. And I'm like, that's what it's all about, right?
I wonder
So
if the tears and the $5 were connected.
I don't know. I'm pretty sure they were betting on me something. I don't know what that was about, but
They're like a prop bet going on.
probably something.
So let's talk about Vistage. I would love to hear. So I would love to hear about your path to Vistage and what made you want to become a chair.
Well, interestingly enough, I'm going to bring my family into it again. My sister, Mary, was actually approached first from Vistage, and she had been a retired executive and was told, or was invited to interview for them, and they told her they were looking for somebody up in the central Wisconsin area. I'm about 2 hours north of Madison and about an hour and a half west of Green Bay. So it's pretty rural
It
where I am.
it looked like I actually did pull this up on the map because so I've never been to Wisconsin,
Oh,
and so I was like, I wonder where this is. And it looks like you're kind of like smack dab, almost central between Green Bay, Madison, and then kind of equidistant on one side you've got Green Bay and then Minneapolis. So you're
yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
around a lot of stuff without being near a lot of stuff, it looks like.
Yes, it's a great location. You can get anywhere in Wisconsin in a couple of hours. And but at that time there was only one group that was here, but that group's been around since 1991.
Sure.
So almost 35 years it has been around. And so that was run by a different chair, but they really needed another chair up in our area. And so that's how I found out about it. And I was approached at that time of almost 10 years ago.
And you have now, and so you went from there, you guys went from having one group in the region, and now it looks like by yourself, you've got four CE groups, one key group, and an advancing leaders group.
Yes.
That's a lot of development in 10 years.
Well, it's interesting because it is a small market, and some people say, "Well, gosh, I don't know if I can build a group in a small market." And I say, good news travels fast in a small market. So the great thing and the thing that makes it actually, I think, easier to build in a smaller market is that everybody knows each other. So if somebody's doing something that they really like, they know the people. If I say, hey, I'd really like to talk to these presidents of these companies, they all know each other. And so I also say that in a small market, bad news travels fast. And that means confidentiality is king. Like it is the
Oh,
one thing
sure.
that would sink me in a heartbeat if we didn't really hold that confidentiality as the most important thing to just really provide the safe space for them. So it did grow fast. And yeah,
How
it's been really great.
how quickly did it grow? And a lot of chairs say that they're that one of the hardest things that they ever did was building their first group, and they're counting whatever they went through in their corporate lives before that. And so how was it building your first group, and then how did you get from one to six?
1 to 6 members or 1 to 6
Oh,
groups?
one to six groups.
Oh, 1 to 6
Is you,
groups. Okay.
yeah.
That's easy. Yes, absolutely. So my first group, I when I first got hired, it was December, and I have a fully thriving assessment business as well. So I did leadership. I had a life before Vistage, and so I had a bunch of clients and a bunch of things that I said to them, I can't really start until April. So I finished up a lot of my contracts with my work that I had with my other business that I still have. And then, so I started in about April. And what I did was I really just got about three people that I knew together and said, all right, this is what I'm thinking about doing. If you could spend, 1 day a month with anyone in our community that runs a company, who would that be and why? And we really built it together. We just put that list together and who do you know? And can we talk to them? And sometimes they would meet with a couple, them directly, just me or,
It's a
yeah.
really
So we,
interesting exercise, and
yeah, we,
one that's actually sort of unique to your situation, being in a relatively small place where everybody knows everyone and everybody feels sort of a little bit accessible.
yeah, yeah. And I think that's probably a big misnomer that a lot of people aren't accessible. I really think people,
I
probably one
think
of the
that
biggest
I
misnomers
think it
is,
feels more daunting than it is in most cases because I think that people are surprised when somebody who they regard as important is actually willing to, to give them 10 minutes. But you started with the
yeah,
idea that yeah, we know these people. They're going to give us 10 minutes to tell them what this is about, which is cool.
yes, yeah. So I actually, I started in April and I launched my first group in November. And that group went to 16 fairly quickly. Right, the next year I did the key executive group. So I think 2014, I think I started my first group, and then the next group I did key executive, which is for their VPs. So that was fairly
Sure.
easy, although the key group is a little transient. So I actually have people that are now CEOs, and I have several people that are now presidents and CEOs that have shifted into my other group that started in my key group. Which
Nice.
kind of the idea, right? You're hoping to
No,
grow
that's
them
terrific.
and then the following year I started my second group and then became the best practice chair for the region for Wisconsin and Michigan. And then about that same time, uh, the chair that was here for 35 years, well, he wasn't here for 35 years, but chaired that group that was here for
Sure.
35 years, was going to retire and move to Missouri and asked me if I wanted to take over that group. And of course, why not? And why
Why
not? I mean,
not?
yeah, it's another day. So yeah, that's kind of how that started. And then last year, one of my Vistage members wanted to start a group and become a co-chair. And he did it for about a year and decided that he just wanted to move on and retire. And so I took back over that group. And then in that middle of that, became the advancing leader group, got thrown in there right at that's I think I launched that in December. And it's really just the need, right? The key executive group was of need from the VP. It's just what the CEOs need in the
Right.
in the area. So
Very
yeah,
cool. Well, yeah, that's incredible growth and from starting from the thing where hey, we've only got one Vistage group in this entire region, and now you're basically the head of this this huge community.
it's a really a it's really an honor. I can't even express that enough. It's just an honor. And I really just facilitate. They are in it for each other. And it really isn't about me. I just put them in the same room and try to make sure it all goes well.
How do you feel? I guess how's your oh, how do I want to ask this? The difference for you between the Advancing Leaders group and say your CEO group, how does your how does your preparation or your mindset or the expectation of you as a facilitator change as you're going in between the different audiences that you have?
I think it's really what's different in them. And it's absolutely the weight. that's on their shoulders. And that's true for all three of those levels. So even my key executive group, they have all the leadership that they have definitely the initiative, they have the drive, but at the end of the day, they don't have the weight on their shoulders that the CEOs have.
Right.
And the advancing leaders, so just to kind of review that a little bit, the CEOs are the CEOs, presidents. Sometimes I'll put a COO in that group, but they
Sure.
really work at executive level. The key reports to that group. So they kind of get it, right? But they still don't carry the full weight of the entire organization on their shoulders. So it's more of a mental prep and understanding what my role is in that. The advancing leaders, they are excited to learn from each other. Their issues are not the same,
No.
not the same. And not that they're not important, they're eager learners. Um, but they don't have as much control either. So we spend more time, I have to really manage what they can control and what they can't control.
Might even be
So
their
that's
first time in a professional development type of situation.
For some of them, yes.
Yeah,
Yes, for some of them, yes. But it's been a great addition. They love it. So
I'm
they
sure.
appreciate you invested in it.
When in your previous life, and I'd love to talk about your training business and what you still have. Did you ever have a peer group or anything that was Vistage like for you? And what light bulbs turned on for you when you found out about Vistage?
It's interesting that you said that. I think I kind of chuckled when you said, "Did I ever have a peer group?" I was like, "Yeah, did we not just talk about my family table?" Like,
Well, that's true.
that is,
The
yeah.
agenda was
Well,
looser, but yes, it's same thing. No, you're right.
I do have great things that I remember from that family table. And my dad used to sit at the table at the end and every once in a while with all those kids, we were all clamoring for attention, right? And inevitably, one of us, sometimes very often me, would say something stupid. And he would just look at us and say, "You just thought it was your turn to talk." And I can't even tell you how many times I think about that today, right? When I see people trying to chime in on different things and get attention and things like that. So I do pull a lot of that stuff. But actually, interestingly enough, many years ago, gosh, I want to say I don't want maybe 19, maybe 2000. I actually started a peer group for women called the Alliance of Women Leaders, and it was just something that I did with another friend of mine that was in the business world and got this group together, and it was organically very similar to Vistage before I knew there was a Vistage. And of course, I didn't get paid for it. So,
Right.
but yeah.
So tell me about your business and about leadership training and how you got into that.
Yeah, so I actually started my business. I have some background in sales. My first career was actually selling pianos, which was very fun. And then I was doing sales for a staffing agency and moved up into management for that. And I really enjoyed the development of people. That's what I loved about management was just watching people grow. And so when we moved back to Wisconsin, I was in a situation where I could do anything that I kind of wanted. I was expecting my third child and wasn't sure what I was going to do yet. And I had a little issue with a company that had a lawn tractor, and the employee hung up on me. And I
Oh,
was like,
wow.
you just can't. I went into the manager. I'm like, you can't have your people hanging up on people. And so he said, I just don't know what to do about that person. And I said, well, I tell you what, I'll put a little seminar together for you, a little lunch and learn, so to speak, on how to handle an angry customer for your employees and effective use of the telephone. And this is what it's going to cost you. And he said, yes, of course. Is he going to say no? Right? He's got an angry customer in front of him, right? So he said yes. And I've been working ever since. So I started with customer service training and then really we know what customer service is about. It's about unhappy employees, and that's really how it started. And it just grew from there, referral after referral, and that's how it started.
What w- what have you learned from that? I mean, obviously there's that's a great story. I love that story. What did owning that business for what did that teach you? And then what has that brought back to Vistage for you?
It really is that it's just that, right? If you have an unhappy employee, they're going to treat your customers badly. And I always joke, people will ask me now, like, how did you ever get to be coaching CEOs? And I say, well, those bad employees blamed their managers. So I started doing management training. And then those bad managers or unhappy managers blamed the VPs, the directors. And it wasn't until I was able to really get the buy-in from all the way to the top. Because in those early years, I would go back to the people that hired me and say, "Hey, you're part of this problem, right? You are adding to this problem." And then they would fire me. I'd say, "Yeah, no thanks. I didn't hire you to fix me. I hired you to fix them." So then I ended up about 2 years in, maybe 3 years in, I got connected with a bank that really took it seriously, and the bank president that took it seriously. And I will tell him to this day that I credited him with my first executive coaching. It happened very organically because he was willing to be coached and he wanted to know how he could do better for his employees. And that's really, I actually started executive coaching 20 years ago. Um, so more than 20 years ago. So all of that is, you asked me what I learned. If people really do show up and try to do their best every day at every level of the organization, nobody wakes up in the morning and thinks, I'm going to try to go tick this person off or do a bad job, not care. Like, people really care. And I don't care what level you're at. It's true for everybody. And so I I never forget that. And one thing my dad taught us, which I'm very grateful for, is that people are just people. Like, you can talk to anybody. Everybody has their strong need to feel valued. And that's true at every level of the organization. And CEOs are no different. Nobody walks around saying, "Hey, I just want to send you an email, tell you how much I appreciate you." It doesn't happen very often for the people at the top. So
No, CEOs and this is something that I didn't know was normal before I was a Vistage member, but see it over and over again. CEOs tend to be lonely-ish kind of people. It's
absolutely.
it's really tough because there's there's nowhere else for your complaint. All of the employees like my manager is killing me. The manager is like, well, my director is killing me. But then the VP is killing them, and the CEO is killing that person, and the CEO's got nowhere to look but the mirror.
Right. Right. I think that's why what we do is such it's such an honor. I keep saying that, but it's such an honor to be that person that they can turn to, and that you can help them providing resources or coaching, and then provide them this safe space to actually be whoever they need to be in that moment. And it's really cool to see the group all in for each other. And if you're a Vistage member, you know what I mean by that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I say it all the time. It's been completely transformative for me. And and I think that what's really interesting for me now is in talking to so many chairs is that you start to learn actually that there are a lot of different paths to this destination.
Mhm.
And there is no one way to be or not be an executive coach or a Vistage chair, or I mean, the backgrounds are really diverse. There's no one archetype for a Vistage chair or for a good leader. And of course, your evidence of that in your way, having come into this not as there are a lot of ways in, but to say, no, I actually just got good at working with executives. What a fabulous way to do it. Very cool.
Yeah, it is pretty neat when you get to the point in your life, and I know for my kids, I hope that they all get this at some point in their life where you feel like everything you've experienced has all come together to help you
Right.
just bring that into your world to help people. It's very cool.
Well, I have enjoyed the heck out of this conversation. Thank you so much for being just an awesome guest, and thank you for sharing and sharing your stories. And I still want to know what it takes to be a winning piano salesperson, but we'll maybe save that for next time. I don't know.
I will tell you one thing. I know you're wrapping up, but the number one salesperson in the country never played a note. And
Is that
it's not
right?
because she was good, because she never made it about herself. She never had to show off her piano skills. She always made it about the customer, and I never forgot that.
And and I'm in the marketing business, and that's the exact lesson that I try to tell people all the time is that, hey, it's not about you.
Hmm.
Your marketing isn't about you, and that's a really hard thing for people to get their heads around. It's like, no, 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 I get to pick the colors, I get to make the website, I get to do all this stuff. It's not about you though. So
The best chairs will tell you the same thing. With Vistage chairs that are really good, you'll meet a few, you'll know what I'm talking about. It's never about them, always about the members and what they do for each other.
yep, absolutely.
Hmm.
Well, thanks for joining me. What's the best way if people have questions about any of your groups, about Vistage in general, about executive leadership training? What's the best way to get in touch with you?
Um, I do have a website, perspectivestraining.com, and it's perspectives with an S. So sometimes people put perspective and that doesn't work. So, and it's,
Totally different training.
right,
Multiple perspectives. We need all of them.
right. People can't find me that way. So, and then B Wenman at Perspectives Training or Bridget.Wenman at vistagechair.com. Either of those will get to me.
Very cool. Thank you so much for being my guest.
Thank you. Appreciate your time.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Chairwaves. You can subscribe to our feed using Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or your platform of choice. You can also visit chairwaves.com for more information. Chairwaves is hosted and produced by me, Eric Wolf, and to connect with me, you can visit my website at ewolf.live. That's EWOLF.live. And a disclaimer, while I love Vistage and CEO peer groups, this podcast is not owned by or affiliated with Vistage or any other peer organization. Thanks for listening.